Hi guys, it's Krishanti with Krishanti.com talking about psychic development and spiritual and personal growth. And one of my favorite topics in this whole realm is about past lives and reincarnation. I just love it. It fascinates me. I love doing past life readings, and it's just so much fun to me. So what I want to talk about in this video is the notion that past lives are chronological. And it seems to be when I've read about people who are researching people who remember past lives, that there are a lot of cases where we're born into this life and remember one right before it. However, when I do readings for people and they ask about past lives that are impacting their current incarnation, it's not always the one just before. It can be oftentimes lives thousands of years ago, sometimes in other galaxies, other dimensions, and things like that. So what's fascinating is that there's nothing really super hard and true about how it all works and why. But what I will tell you is one of my favorite authors who studied this for his whole life is Stevenson, and one of his books is called Children Who Remember Past Lives. And what he uncovered is that a lot of the children that he interviewed really did remember the life just before, in chronological order. One of my favorite stories in that book was about a little girl in India who swore that she wasn't a little girl, that she was a woman, a mother, and she had a family, and she'd left them, and she didn't belong in this family she was in. She had children, and she needed desperately to get back to them, to see her children. And so he and his team went out and interviewed her, got the name of the village that she remembered, which I believe was like 30 miles away, took her to that village, and she reunited with her kids, and she knew things about them that there's no way she could have known. And their mother had died, and so it really was her. It's so cool and exciting, and his book is chock full of stories like that. And I remember a story on the news too about a little boy who, in this lifetime obviously, who swore that he had died in World War II in Japan. I don't know if you saw that. It was so cool. The parents got concerned because he obsessively drew pictures of planes and pictures of, I don't know, just like with like extreme detail, like World War II jets. And then he started this story about like how he was flying over there and his plane went down and he died, like over and over and over again. And you will find that children tend to do that. I have made another video about how to remember your own past lives. And in that, I talk about how it's the things you're kind of mildly obsessed with as a child that will give you clues as to what you were and who you were in another life. And now that isn't necessarily chronologically the last life. It could be, or it could be a life that just significantly impacts this life. And I'll get to a little more of that down the line. But the parents were so baffled that they sought help. And in the end, where this news story all came together, they think they brought him to Japan, and he was graciously, they had people there meeting them, and they accepted him and talked to him and everything. And all the pieces sort of like clicked together, and it all made sense. And it felt like it actually really, I feel like they got the proof and the evidence that they were looking for. In some cultures, Stevenson, in that book of Children Who Remember Past Lives, what they will do, and I believe it's in Southeast Asia, specifically where they do this in certain villages, they'll take a red lipstick or a paint or something right when somebody dies. They'll mark them like on the back of their neck, or they'll put a little mark there, and then when someone is born in that same village, the next time they're born, they turn the body over and they look, and they have seen the mark there, so that they know it's the soul of that other person born into a new body. And that, to me, is evidence that these past lives are chronological, and we can sort of body hop. So we get rid of one body, hop into another baby body. But there are plenty of us, I'm sure, who don't want to come back or don't come back for quite a long time. And to an extent, that could answer the question of why some people don't remember. You would think, okay, well, we're all here now. Like, do we not all remember a lifetime maybe in World War II or a lifetime, that would have been in the decades prior to when we were born? But the world was also a lot less populated if we go way, 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 way back. So where were all those spirits, And I think, or what I've discovered in doing readings with people and my own other research with past lives and reincarnation is that some of us do have timeouts. I hope that didn't make a sound. I kind of hit the mic there for a little bit. Some of us do have timeouts where we don't come back for like hundreds of years and we're somewhere else. And some of us may not have been here for like 1,000 years. And therefore, when we come in for a past life session, the first one they may get is like in Babylon or Sumeria or something like ages ago. Some people that I've worked with too, and I did another video about this one, reincarnating from other planets and galaxies. And of course that would make sense. Look how huge the universe or multiverse is. I've talked to and worked with people who are sort of like field biologists. So they're not from here and they feel weird here on Earth, like they don't belong, like they always know that they don't quite fit in here, and it can often be quite painful and lonely too. But they come from other places and then to experience life here on Earth and see what it's all about, to reincarnate into earthly bodies. But if we take a few steps back and think and realize that time isn't the way it is here on Earth, like universally, it's something that can be manipulated. I don't think we've quite yet figured out how to. Maybe people have and they just haven't released that yet. I know how to time travel, like with remote viewing, where you can send your consciousness back, but like the physical whole thing, time is slippery. When readers try to predict time, it's been and become increasingly more and more difficult to be accurate with that, with the timing. And that's because time is so random and odd and strange. So with that in mind, it would make sense that regardless of whether or not you had a lifetime in the 40s or the 50s or even the 60s, 70s, and you're right back here now, or you had a life 2,000 years ago, and you're hanging out with Jesus or whatever, which I've talked to people who do remember him or being around that time. Anyway, it may not all click. It may be like, okay, that life 2,000 years ago is the one that's impacting this one. So you kind of like surfed this wave and then it came back in here like right now, if that makes sense. Sometimes things are hard for me to describe or put into words. I hope that does kind of make sense. And then the lessons or the karma and the things you need to work on in this life are tied to that lifetime. And when people ask me to go, like, where was I? What time in the world was I? The information that comes through intuitively, psychically is kind of random. It's like, okay, here's Ireland in the 1800s. Like, here's Southeast Asia in, 80 BC or, like it goes all over the place and the order doesn't seem important. It's not like, here's your lifespan, from family tree or whatever, from like this time to that time. And then right before it was this to that. And right before it was this to that. It was like there's a charge or certain energy, or we could consider it unfinished business when it comes to karma. It's like, okay, you packed up that. And that's another thing I think that would kind of make sense, right? Like, okay, maybe your lifetime right before this one isn't impacting this one as much right now because you did what you needed to do and that's done. What you need to work on in this life is the karma that you never finished way back then. And then it comes full circle and then you got to work on it that way. So it's like one of those random tests that you take with all these random questions about what you learned during the school year. And you know, the teacher won't be like, well, we're going to study and focus on in this test. Sorry, in this test, you're going to show me what you learned from May. It's like, well, in this test, show me what you learned or what you need to continue working on from September, if that makes sense. And I like that. I feel like that kind of clicks for me too in thinking and talking about it. So back to what may be impacting this life, oftentimes when people ask about other people in their lifetimes or in their life now who they've known, or ask if they've, people are asking if they have known other people in their life now in other lifetimes. I wonder if it's the heat. It's like really hot today. And it seems to be like a similar sort of pattern that happens throughout the years and the experiences that you've had with people. That seems to be similar. But some people like wouldn't have been in another life, and then it just so happens that they're here now, you're here now, you guys knew each other back in Greece and, you know, God knows when, and now you're here together now, and it's all perfect, and you can all like kind of support each other or be like foils to force the other people to grow and all that stuff, which is very complicated. I feel like I need to cut this video because I've been talking for so long. I feel like I could talk about this forever. And if you're interested in this past life stuff, I encourage you to read Brian Weiss, who's amazing. Many Lives, Many Masters is the first book he wrote, or the big book about all his research. And Ian Stevenson, Children Who Remember Past Lives, which is so rad and fun. And Carol Bowman has a fascinating story about her studies with past lives and working on regressing her own kids, which is so funny to me because I love it so much. I was hoping that my son would be talking about his past lives, and no, he doesn't remember anything. I'm like, tell me about before. What do you remember from before? And he's like, no, I really just don't remember anything. So when he gets older and is more open to letting me hypnotize him, we'll try that. But you can discover a lot by getting your own past life regression or reading. And I have a past life meditation on my website if you want to check it out, a past life regression meditation that will help you to get to see a lifetime. And then you can do those over and over again to kind of discover what you've been up to and where you've been. So I hope that helps. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.